Hey,
Now
we
we
are
are.
now. Hey, welcome everybody to Hump Hangouts. This is episode number 578. If you cannot tell, it's the day before Christmas. This is Christmas Eve. It is the 24th, and it is going to be a great Hump Day Hangout before we go into actual Christmas. We got a few questions already. If you're joining us live and you've got questions, make sure to put those down. Other than that, we got a couple of announcements, a couple things wanted to go over. Most importantly, if you are not subscribed to our emails, then hopefully you're at least checking us out on Facebook or YouTube. We just sent out the details for a holiday promo. We've got some really good stuff going on. I don't want to mess it up, but I know we have at least one deal that's 75% off. It might be 90%. Anyways, there's a ton of great deals. I'll put the link in the stream, but you can go check out a recent post and hop on emails. Just head over to semanticmastery.com. Check that out. We got some great stuff going on. So other than that, Bradley, how are you doing on the day before Christmas?
Fantastic, man. Family's here. I'm up in Northern Virginia. Came in on Monday, and you know, family's upstairs. I can hear them running around as we speak. So my nieces and nephews are here, and so just happy to be here. We're going to keep this brief. I promise. There's only a handful of questions, so we're going to get through those briefly, and then get back to family. So, but happy to be
Cool.
here. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Likewise. Well, then, yeah,
Hey,
let's keep
Jenny.
it.
Jenny
Oh,
commented in. Look at that. What's up,
oh, is
Jenny?
she watching right now? Hey, Jenny, she's like, that's my wife. She's about what 25 feet away in the dining
Well,
room.
that's cool. It's good. Merry Christmas to you as well. So,
Yeah. Hello to Jenny and Donna. How's it going?
but yeah, that's it. So, I mean, like I said, we got a handful of questions. So we'll run through that fairly quickly. Not a
Cool.
whole lot cooking for the next couple of weeks. It'll be a little bit slow because of just the time of year, but
Yeah.
we're going to be making some kind of big changes and making some announcements in sometime probably in January about it, semantic mastery, and just kind of shifting our focus a little bit because of just the changes that have come and are coming. So I think we need to shift a bit too. So we're going to be kind of announcing some of that stuff coming up. But in the meantime, we just get through the end of this year. It's been a great year for me personally. I think next year is going to be even better, to be honest. So looking forward to that. So, any other comments, Adam, before we get into it?
Nope, apologies. Had to mute myself there as I was opening up some other stuff. No, we're good. Like I said, everyone, we got the holiday promo going on for limited time. I'm going to drop the link on the YouTube page. And if you haven't already seen it or you're watching the replay and you don't see the link, you can check out postings on Facebook, YouTube, or even better, just head over to semanticmastery.com, jump on the emails, and you'll get the details there. So that's it,
Right
man.
on. Well, thank you, and I wish I could have worn some goofy
I know I
Merry
miss your
Christmas
your
stuff
elf
too,
hat
man.
with
I
the
know
ears. Yeah.
I didn't think about it, man, because I just I came up here from my I recently moved into a house. I just didn't have it. Didn't even think about it when I left. So I dropped the ball this year. I
All
apologize. We'll make it for next year.
right. Sounds good.
So, all right, man. Thank you. All
Yeah.
right, guys. I'm gonna grab a screen. We're gonna jump into the few questions that we have, and like I said, wrap up. Just so we can all get back to family. But I did want to keep the tradition going. We very rarely ever miss a Hump Day Hangouts, and we didn't want this to be any different. So, with that said, Adam, are you seeing my screen just to confirm?
Yes. Good to go.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's a handful of questions, and I must not have hit on all of them. Give me a second. Okay, I'm going to start with David. He says, note name change to protect the innocent. Okay, makes sense. He says, Google keeps changing my business name on my New York City GBP profile to Acme instead of Acme Digital Marketing. Okay, so, right, even though I rarely use just Acme by itself, save for a few blog article mentions, everywhere else, it's always the full business name included. Also, when my New York GBP set to GBP would reset it to the homepage multiple times. Eventually, I just let it stay with the homepage URL because I got tired of changing it back all the time. Thoughts? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've actually seen that before, though. So you're not alone. If there, for example, I've taught about with service area businesses, especially if you're targeting a large area, that oftentimes the business will link to the home page, and sometimes that's not the best strategy. It's better to link to a page optimized for the city that the GBP is actually located in when targeting a larger area than just that specific city. That way the homepage can state or claim the area in which they operate versus the location landing page. What is linked to the GBP corroborates exactly where the GBP is physically located. So it helps to provide agreement between the website and the GBP and how it's optimized. But in some cases, so for example, I'll just use this as an example. There's a appliance repair company that I've done some consulting with for link building stuff, who's in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area. And they are targeting a large area, like most service area businesses do, not just the city of Fort Lauderdale, but it's in their domain name, the Fort Lauderdale is, as well as they had been linking to the homepage for years. And then they, came to me, and I suggested some structural changes and some, optimization strategies and things like that they implemented most of. But the same thing was occurring that you're describing, in that because they established, like, the precedent had been set, so to speak, in that there was an established history with this particular GBP always linking to the homepage, and citations and everything else had all been established already with a lot of that, reinforcing a lot of that data. And so even once that change was made, and attempting to correct or update citations to provide, corroboration of the new details, the new name, address, phone number, website information, which really was just the website URL that changed. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is I've seen that happen before. It's almost like there's a history or a precedent that is set, and it's hard, old habits die hard, so to speak, right? It's hard to get the algorithm to change. And it tends to only happen with more established, mature businesses, I found. And again, it's probably just due to the history of what Google understands about that business and how it had set for so long, if that's clear. So how do you overcome it, I guess, is the underlying question, if at all. Well, you can try to continue fighting it, and I can give you some suggestions to try to see if you can get it to Google to make the change, to recognize the change and let it stick. Okay. But the other side of it is, why fight it? Instead, if you still optimize the homepage the proper way with a true and accurate statement, and I've been testing this recently and by the way, what I'm about to describe was brought on by that same client example that I just described about the appliance repair company in Fort Lauderdale. He came back to me a couple of months, 3 months later, whatever it was, and asked me to reanalyze, re-audit basically, or reevaluate the audit and look at the on-page, because of what you were describing. The same sort of phenomenon was happening. He kept switching back. Google kept switching back no matter what. And so I came to the conclusion at that point, okay, well, why fight it? If this actually led to more experimentation with other similar situations that occurred with other white label clients that were also more mature businesses. And so I started experimenting with this a little bit, which is, as long as the homepage of the website is still providing an accurate, what I call entity association statement, also known as a semantic triple, right? This is who we are, this is what we do, and this is the area in which we operate. That's essentially what you're stating in that statement. As long as that statement is still true and accurate, meaning if the location that the GBP is physically located in is part of that area that is being claimed that they operate within on the homepage SEO title, then it's still a true and accurate statement, because the location where the GBP is registered and physically located is contained within that area. So the short answer is, don't fight it. Just optimize you can, and if you want to, the ways that I would recommend trying to get it to change is to be very consistent with the updated version, whatever it is, name, address, phone number, and website. So the web address being an inner page URL as opposed to the homepage, making sure the name is all formatted in one specific way, and then trying to reinforce that data on external sources as much as possible, which means, again, citations, updating existing citations to have the new, corrected, more current data, publishing press releases where you are referencing name, address, phone number, and website literally within the content body of the press release, because those act as unstructured citations, which is, again, validation of those. It corroborates the name, address, phone number, and website information for that location. The more data you can do to validate the new updated information, the more likely it is for Google to recognize it and allow it to stick, if that's clear. But the point that I'm trying to make is, sometimes you're better off just not fighting it and just go, if you can't beat them, join them, so to speak. And that is, just optimize the homepage in a slightly different and better way, as long as it's still a true and accurate statement, which again, service area business, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is the area in which we operate, which is a collection of locations, right? Does that make sense? So whether it's a county, a large city, or a metropolitan region, or an even larger region, or whatever, that's an area, which is a collection of locations. And as long as the location, where the physical location of the GBP is located with, is one of the locations contained within that area, then it's still worth using the homepage, or at least testing. And in a case like this, where it seems that Google is always favoring the homepage URL over an inner page, then just don't fight it. Just change the optimization so that it's not a contradicting statement, if that's clear. Hopefully that was an answer to your question, but that's, there's a number of ways that you can try to overcome that with schema, reinforcing proper and accurate data and external sources. Again, Web 2.0s, any sort of citation, both structured and unstructured, which includes press releases and, business directory listings and Web 2.0 posts and video posts and all that kind of stuff. Even photos or images where that text is stating name, address, phone number, having images that state that, right? And then indexing images that forces more recognition of that data, if that's clear. And so that's what, but my point is, why bother? Unless there's a specific reason. If there's a specific reason, then yeah, those are some of the ways that you can try to overcome it. If not, then why fight it? That was my answer. Okay. Good question. Jay says, what do you think of approaches that have backlinks that link to the GBP of a local business instead of the homepage? Yeah, I mean, you can. I recommend, if you're going to link to the GBP, you link to public facing URLs, not to the CID map URL or anything that you think is some ninja SEO tactic to link to, because that's actually kind of a spam signal. Like, for example, the CID map URL, meaning company ID, that's that kind of machine readable URL, the googlemaps.com google.com/maps/? CID equals, and then the string of characters or numbers, that's the company ID. That, don't link to that. That is a spam signal. There are some strategic places where you can and should link to it. For example, reference it in the has map attribute of the local business schema, or if you link to it from like an ID page, that totally makes sense. But linking to the CID map URL as a link building tactic is never smart. It's a spam signal. Don't do it. If you're going to link to the Google Business Profile, do various share URLs that are publicly available to the general public, the layman, the civilian, the non-SEO, right? So that means map share URL, GBP share URL, the knowledge panel share URL, which is not the same as a map share, Google Business Profile share URL, right? That's different. Google review share URLs. You could share, images, for example, build links to image share URLs, things like that. Those are things that you want to build links to, because those are public URLs that, again, it's natural looking link profile. You're not pushing link equity into the map whenever you build links to any of those types of links, because those are all 302 redirect links. So it's not about pushing link equity, but it is about creating the appropriate signals, right? Proper and natural or organic looking signals. And that's what that is, because somebody linking to a Google Business Map is not going to even know what the CID map URL is unless they're an SEO. So they're going to click a share button and grab whatever that dynamic share URL is and link to that. And that's why it's important to do that, because it creates a natural looking link profile. That's clear. So, and by the way, do you understand that what links are doing is they're creating associations? That's what the semantic web is about, right? I talked about that in the previous reply or answer to the previous question when I was talking about the entity association statement, also known as a semantic triple. It's all about creating the associations. That's what the links are doing. So by using a link, with proper use of anchor text, you're creating an association between the concepts or the entities in which you want the association to be made, right? That's what we're trying to do, is create or force the algorithms to recognize the associations in the way that we want them to, so that they will recommend or reference, provide, return the businesses that we're optimizing for when somebody queries the algorithm for some sort of a query that business is relevant to, right? That's the whole point of the entity associations, is because it's an entity-based algorithm, and that's how the search operates. So we want the queries for the entities contained within the users, the consumers' queries, to be associated with the brand entities that we're optimizing for. Do you understand? precisely what we're doing. And that's what the links can do. And that's why linking to the Google is as an SEO that's been in traditional search, we think of links as pushing link equity and link juice, right? And things like that. And that's why it matters. And that's why we don't like no follow links as SEOs, right? No bullshit. I mean, we haven't, but links are about creating associations now, not so much about pushing link equity. I'm not saying there's still not value and utility to link value. There is, but links have more utility than just their juice now. Does that make sense? It's about creating associations, because how do the language models and the algorithms, the bots, how do they crawl the web? The same, through links. It's all still through links. And that's the first touch point of any sort of discoverability, is always the link. That's how the content in any form that it was found was in any form that it is in, the content is found through links. And so that's the first touch point. That's the first opportunity that we have to create entity associations, is through the link. Do you understand? Whether or not we're pushing link equity, whether it's a follow link and no follow link, whether we're pushing building links to the map CID URL so that we can push link equity, which is a spam signal. No, let's not do that. Let's instead create brand associations with the entity associations we want by building links to the map share URL in a natural, organic looking way. You see what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. So yes, you can absolutely link to the map in various URLs within the map, the knowledge panel, etc. Okay. Justin said, what is the most accurate way to find and measure rankings for local? I just use Bright Local, but there's a number of services that all do the same thing. I have a local business and I want to start implementing some SEO. Yeah, Bright Local, I recommend that because I've been using them forever, for like 11 or 12 years now, no kidding. But there's White Spark, Bright Local, Local Falcon, Local Viking. There's a number of, there's so many of them now, it's just ridiculous. Just pick one. If you're a business owner, I would recommend seriously just Bright Local, because it has a suite of tools that can help you to kind of do your own SEO, local SEO, if you're willing to learn and take the time to but there's a lot of tools that'll help to make it a lot easier. And Bright Local has their own kind of academy and all that kind of stuff where they'll teach how to use their tools to do local SEO, that kind of stuff. So I would say Bright Local is probably your best option as a local business owner that wants to learn how to do local SEO, or SEO for your own business. That's probably a really good place to start, because they're tools with training that will help you to optimize, and you'll learn along the way. And you can always come here to Hump Day Hangouts and ask questions as you go, and we're happy to answer them here. Okay. I would invite you to the mastermind, but that's really developed for agencies and SEO professionals, not for individual business owners. You're welcome to come join us if you feel like it. But honestly, if you go to Bright Local and try to learn all that stuff to optimize for your own business, you're probably, and just ask questions where you can. Here's one of the forums you can do so. You'll probably be able to accomplish what you need, and you can always ask for additional help as needed. Remember, we offer white label services, so if some of it's over your head, or you found stuff that you just do not like to do, and you want some additional support, reach out. We can provide. Okay. Ted Gubata says rank tracking is much more difficult due to headless Chrome. Yeah, it is, but it's more expensive too. That's why the rank trackers pricing has jumped quite a bit. But honestly, I wouldn't even focus so much on organic rank tracking. I would focus, which is where a lot of the more expense had come from recently, was in the organic rank tracking. But really focus on local search grid tracking for, if it's a local business, you're 70% or greater of all of the leads that are going to be generated for your business are going to come through the Maps pack, which means just focus on that. And I wouldn't really worry so much about organic rankings. I'm not saying do not optimize for organic search, because that influences how it's going to perform in AI search. Your business, it influences how your business will perform in AI search. So you still have to optimize for organic search, but that's not something I even recommend. It's not, ranking in organic Google search is not helpful that much for local businesses, but ranking well in organic search is an indication that the company or the business, the brand, can also rank well in AI search. There's not a direct correlation, but there's some overlap there for sure, right? So anyway, just wondering how you're getting on with your local business report. Yeah, we use Bright Local for all of our client reports. So hopefully that answers that. All right, last two questions. Rob says, or 2 to 3 page static HTML sites good enough for building out a local geo-based mini PBN intended to serve one local business, link to money site, and or other tier 0 assets? It can be. Yeah, buy a decent domain. That's what I mean. Yeah, it can be for sure. What you want to look for, though, is try to find an expired domain that already has relevant backlinks pointing to it. When I say relevant, meaning geographically relevant backlinks pointing to it, right? So here's the trick. Okay, this is how we do it. Go whatever your domain scraper is that you use to look for expired domains, or go to like expireddomains.net, which is a domain marketplace where you can buy already expired, not just auction domains, but you can buy already expired domains, which is what I look for. Okay. And look for domains that have the city or the town name in them, or immediately adjacent city or town names in them, or a county name, right? Because usually a city or town is contained within a broader county, or look for a regional name, right? So anything that would be relevant in the domain name, but look for expired domains, and then look at their backlink profile. And you're not looking at traditional metrics. The DA, the DR, the trust flow, none of that shit matters. What you're looking for are there other backlinks pointing to the expired domain from other local sources to whatever the area is that you are trying to produce the geo-relevance for. Does that make sense? That's what you're looking for. And it's not any stupid third-party metric that matters. It's the local relevance that matters. Because again, not the DA, it's not the DR, it's not the trust flow or the topical trust flow in this point, in this case. It is literally just, are there links pointing to it coming from other local sources? Despite their quality, are there links coming from other sources? That's what matters. And if you can find a domain that has a related geographic term in the domain, that's how you found it to begin with. I just mentioned the city or town, adjacent cities or towns, county, region, etc. So that's already created some relevance because there's geographic relevance in the domain name itself, but now it has geographically relevant backlinks pointing to it already. So that's what you're basically buying into a site that already has geographic relevance, if that's clear. And then you're just repurposing it, put content on it that was in the same topical category of whatever it was that whatever the topical category of that site was when it acquired those local links. Does that make sense? You don't want to change the topical category of the domain either. You want to keep it whatever it was when it acquired those locally relevant links, so that those links remain valid, right? And then you can just insert a link back to your client. You can do that in a creative way. The way that we do it is we just insert a block quote into the content post, a post on the site. Remember, all posts on the site are going to be relevant to whatever the content of or the topic of the site was previously. So if we're going to go insert a link to our client site that is in a completely different topical category, but it's geographically relevant, how do we do that without forcing a piece of publishing a piece of content, an article, a post, whatever, on the site that isn't relevant to the theme of that site, of that website, that domain? How do we do it? Well, we publish the domain with content relevant to whatever the topic of the site was previously. And then when we go to insert our client's link, we insert a block quote that says something to the effect of, hey, the team at our blog, we would like, or the team at our blog would like to thank company name for their support. If you need products or services in city or town, contact company name. And there's literally NAPW. So we get a citation, we get anchor text links within that little blurb of text. And then we put the Google Map embed. So we get kind of full geographic relevance from that domain, but in a non-spammy way, because we're not pushing topical relevance. You see what I'm saying? So can this work? Yeah, absolutely it can. It's just the way that you set it up, and look for domains that already have geographic relevance built into them, both in the domain name itself, but also in the backlink profile pointing to it. That's how you're going to get the most use. The quickest way to get results from them is that way. Okay. Last question, Rob says, what criteria do you use when deciding whether to rebuild a domain as tier 1 versus a tier 2 linking asset? Usually just cleanliness, right? So looking at the backlink profile and strength. So if it's really clean, super clean, and has strong topical relevance in whatever topical category I need, then that becomes a tier 1 site. If it's a little bit dirtier, not quite as clean, not quite as relevant, but still related, then it's suitable for tier 2. That's it. We try to keep the most relevant stuff at tier 1 only. And by the way, I want to be 100% clear. It is perfectly acceptable to do varied relevance matching in your link building direct to your money site. And in fact, you should do some varied relevance matching, meaning not every link should be fully relevant as linking to your site, because that smells fishy, right? That looks a bit manufactured. So in order to have a natural organic looking link profile, you should have some varied relevance matching in your link profile. So not all links have to be fully relevant. The ones, in order to extract the most value from a link, you want it to be as relevant as possible. So just keep that in mind. Choose your battles, right? When spending money on links, try to, use links strategically to where when you're investing money in the links, you're buying links that have the most relevance. And then the more less expensive links or stuff that you do in-house, it's a little bit easier at scale. You can still use them. I'm not saying don't, but you just be careful and use them smartly, wisely, so that you're not over optimizing or being too aggressive with link building, velocity, like link velocity, all that kind of stuff. But you do want some mixed relevance in your link profile in order for it to look natural anyway. Does that make sense? So, but so sometimes tier 2 linking assets can be used at tier 1 is what I'm saying. And it would make sense to do so. But the rule of thumb is you want to stick with the cleanest, most relevant stuff at tier 1, the stuff that's a little bit less savory, so to speak, at tier 2. Okay. All right, guys, I think that's it. See a couple of questions. I'm going to take a look at those and then we'll wrap up.
Just a couple on the page.
Oh, I'm surprised you're still here.
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Well, let me grab the questions. Let's see. John, Merry Christmas, John. I have a question. Not sure if you've heard of SEO Neo, but it seems like it's similar to what you do for expanding the brand, but on steroids. Do you think using something like that could penalize a GBP if you were running blog comments to directional links? Probably. I don't think it would penalize a GBP. I doubt it. I mean, I don't know, John, because I don't do spam. I don't do bulk spam gigs of any sort. I haven't for years. I'm not saying you can't. I know still a lot of SEOs that do, and they still swear by it. I just don't. I prefer to use more relevant link building with a lot less volume of links. That said, I don't know this. So this is not gospel. This is not law. I'm disclaiming right up front. I don't know. But from what I understand, you're not going to tank a GBP or get it penalized from building links to it. You can if you're building links to the CID map URL, but not to shared URLs. From what I understand, you can hammer away. And I wouldn't pick. Remember, think about this. If you go to a map Google Business Profile and you click the share button, and it gives you that URL with the, it's a short URL. And then you go back tomorrow and you click the share button again, it's going to be a different URL. That's a dynamic URL. So you don't want to take one map share URL and spam the shit out of that. Do you see what I'm saying? Because that's definitely an indication to Google that you're trying to spam it. What I would do is get a collection of share URLs that you do a bulk spam gig to, or in your case, driving directions URLs. Test with it though. You know what I mean? Like if you're worried about it potentially penalizing a domain, or a GBP, excuse me, which you're right to worry about that. I don't think you can from linking to share URLs. I don't think you can get it penalized, but to be sure, right? I'd want to be sure before just doing it on a client site. So what would I do? I would go find a GBP that is like on page 3 of the Google Maps results, like no kidding, for a particular search query. One that is not, you can tell is clearly not being optimized, or there's no effort being made to rank well whatsoever. And use that as a test site, as a testing ground. Test your SEO Neo spam gig, which that's what it is, right? But test a spam gig on a non-ranking GBP that isn't your client site, where you're not going to do any more harm to it because it's already in no man's land, if that makes sense. Just try it, because then now you've got something that's already performing very poorly. And if you see any movement positive, then hey, you might be onto something, and you could start testing again on other GBPs too that are performing. I'm not saying you're spam, like go negative SEO anybody, but if you find a GBP that is clearly not being optimized, no effort is being made, what harm is it going to do to test on that first to try to prove out a theory? And then once you have a definitive answer, if you get positive results from it, then you can go start to implement on real live, money producing campaigns, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, last one's from Costco membership. Should purchased backlinks be indexed in order to have an effect on the target site? No, they don't have to be. They need to be crawled. That's it. Links don't have to be indexed. I know SEOs always think that they need to be, but that's not true. Links just have to be crawled by Google for them to be given credit. We've done testing on that. It's been a few years, but I know for sure that it doesn't have to be indexed. It just has to be crawled. And you can see that, guys, because if you go to Google Search Console and you go to look at external links and export external links, you'll see links in there that the link tools don't find because they're not indexed. And so that tells you Google is still giving credit to links that might not be indexed. That's why they're in the backlink profile that it shows you in Search Console, right? If they weren't indexed, if they didn't give value or Google wasn't at least acknowledging them if they weren't indexed, then why would they be in the external link report from Search Console even if they weren't indexed? Does that make sense? So it goes to show you that Google is absolutely still that. Now, is there something to be said about if a link isn't indexed, does it produce less value than if it were? Yeah, for sure. And there's traffic as a validator, remember. And if a link doesn't have, if a link is on a page that isn't indexed, that doesn't mean that page isn't getting traffic, by the way, because it could be getting traffic from external sources, from referral sources, from email campaigns, social media campaigns, PPC campaigns, could be a number of things, but traffic makes that link valid. So again, does the page have to be indexed that contains the link for it to be valid? No, because if traffic is a validator and a page is getting traffic from, but it's not indexed, but it's still getting a lot of traffic, real traffic, not CTR, real traffic, then that link is valuable regardless of whether the page is indexed or not. Do you see what I'm saying? So it just is easier for us to understand if a link is indexed. Oh, it must be providing value. But on the other side of that, what if it's an index page, but it's a toxic link, right? Think about that. And it could be just because a page can be toxic and still indexed, right? So you could literally have a link on a page that's indexed that's providing negative SEO value, or you could have a link on a page that's not indexed that's providing positive value. And so it's not about the indexing, is what I'm saying. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. All right, guys. Anyways, thanks everybody for being here. Adam, thanks for sticking around. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas,
we'll see
everybody.
next week as well. Thanks, guys.